Hello. So, do you remember that one video I did like a year ago or something? Yeah, we're back here again. This basically needs no introduction. If you guys haven't noticed, there is another game mode on the workshop called Gun Game. And guess where that's from? Open Fortress, which you can go and download right now for free, and it's infinitely better than this piece of shit. We are back here again. And apparently, workshoppers still go out of their way to take TF2 and turn it into another game entirely. Like if Versus Saxton Hale and Zombie Fiction didn't already tell us that this does not fucking work out in the end. You see, if you watched my Stop the Slop video, I made some pretty important points in that video, saying that you shouldn't turn TF2 into something else entirely, altering the gameplay in such a huge way that it does not feel like TF2 anymore. It's just a watered down version of another game, an arcade you could say. I said that Versus Saxton Hale was loosely okay or acceptable, because at least that game mode was not rushed in any way, and it fit quite well into TF2 as a game mode. Saxton Hale is scattered throughout TF2's lore, and it was a part of the Jungle Inferno update, the last major update we ever had. And now it's almost been 8 years since that release, and god I'm old. And with that game mode, you don't really strip away anything from the game other than tweaking some weapons for the sake of balance. But generally, that game mode somewhat fits within the style of the game. Now with that said, and Versus Saxton Hale being added, it started this huge snowball that we got running right now. Later in October the same year, we got Zombie Infection, which somehow had a shorter lifespan than a fucking fruit fly. And that was the first ever red flag we got, because we noticed how poorly that shitfest was implemented. Valve saw Zombie Infection and said, why not? Completely clueless, right? And then we got the people who were behind this game mode, who created it. They thought that building a completely new V-script for a game mode with new models, HUD elements, props, maps, and balancing decisions within the span of 3 months after Saxton Hale got in was a good idea. Now I don't know about you, but this shit is the most Todd Howard Fallout 76 stuff right here. This is insane. And whenever that got in, a month later, we got Prop Hunt. In November, that is. We didn't get Prop Hunt, but it was announced on the workshop. There were around 9 maps of it, and the game mode, in of itself, is a fucking joke, and nowhere finished. I told everyone who wanted Prop Hunt in this game to go play Gmod or some other game that offers a similar, if not better, experience than what they were trying to shoehorn into this game. Now before I dig in on Gun Game as a whole, I will go over TF2's design philosophy. TF2 in its core is a 12v12 team class based first person shooter fighting over territorial control. It was made to appeal to casual players who can easily hop into this game, with objectives and classes being crystal clear on what they do and what they are. And with the 12v12 format, you can easily feel like you contribute to the same goal as your teammates and not feel dunked on or feel the pressure to actually win or learn the game. You can learn the game at your own pace. TF2 is simple in its design, in its goals and objectives, and you don't have to even think about it. And you cannot really take that and make it into hide and seek or gun game or zombie survival. I mean, obviously you can, but we already have community servers that has done this, but they're fucking dead because again, nobody plays these watered down game modes. And they're not really here for that, they're here for TF2. These game modes are just a shy attempt of workshoppers trying to earn a quick buck in exchange to dilute this game into something that it fucking isn't, in my opinion. And let me tell you right now, dear viewer, average consumer of this game, it's okay to play another game. You're allowed to put the controller down and pick another game up to enjoy a completely different experience. I mean, I see you guys play War Thunder because your favorite YouTuber said it was good, so I don't see why you cannot do it for TF2 or another game. You know, it's very simple. Now let's get into Gun Game and why I think it shouldn't be added to TF2. You see, first of all, in Team Fortress 2, you have teams, and in Gun Game, you don't have teams. So they strip away all of that, removing 50% of the fucking title from the game. And in Team Fortress 2, you have 9 classes, and in Gun Game, they strip away all of that to replace them with the Open Fortress Mercenary. So the fucking mercs we all know and love are just gone. And so are the glass clear objectives. Now you need to sweat as much as everyone else to win. And you will, because nowadays everyone plays first person shooters like their goddamn life depends on it. So the game philosophy Robin Walker had on TF2, the one we just talked about and went over, has just been tossed out the fucking window. And Open Fortress, you know, that Gun Game wants to be so badly, it's a mod and not a VScript game mode. With modding, you can do a lot of shit. You can see what modding has done to Minecraft with popular mods such as RLCraft or Tickets, or take the Arma 2 mod DayZ. Modding can range from replacing models to completely overhauling strings of code within the game. VScript is not a modding tool. It can change maps in how they work and behave, however they cannot change or edit literal code of TF2, meaning that the VScript has its limits and can only do so much. Another point I can address is that if you put Open Fortress and Gun Game side to side, you can see that Open Fortress has a lot more going on. Custom UI elements, new animations, new cosmetics, different announcer, new weapons and weapon reskins, and actual B-hopping. And yes, I am aware that B-hopping is in TF2, but in TF2 you cannot gain momentum. Either way, Open Fortress behaves like Quake and looks like TF2, or takes place in the same universe. And Gun Game is just meh. No amount of duct tape is gonna fix this shit, okay? Sure, it plays like Open Fortress, but it's a shell of what Open Fortress is. And that game is still in development, and I highly doubt if Gun Game was gonna get added to TF2, it would still get support from the original devs who worked on it. In reality, it would just get implemented, and then they would move on to other projects. But seriously, what is the problem with just going to Open Fortress's website and just downloading the mod itself? Why do we have to shoehorn this into the main game? The mod is literally right there. Same with all other game modes, but they've just been in the server browser instead, but again, they're fucking dead, because again, people come to play TF2 and not poorly optimized crooked ass minigames. And just because something is fun does not mean that it should be implemented into the game. People will play these game modes for 10 minutes, get their fill, and then go back to the original game. And whoops! Now we have 4 of the 5 maps in the Misc tab that are fucking dead with versus Axton Hale. Not to mention the bloat that these maps are adding to the Misc tab itself. I mean, if we keep this shit up, the Misc tab will look like the Scream Fortress map pool. And we all know how fucking terrible that is. It's comical. Due to how many maps are just shoved into one category. Not only that, these maps take up space on your disk space as well. The zombie infection maps alone are 200 megabytes. Not a lot, but they do add up over time. So who knows how many megabytes it would have been if we got Prop Hunt and Gun Game. And we all know for a fact that after they've been implemented, nobody fucking plays them anymore. So if you post this, if you don't like it, don't play it argument, that shit does not really fly here, buddy. Because you're still required to download these maps onto your PC even if you don't want to. And those are my thoughts on Gun Game. And for the record, you can like Gun Game, fun is objective, but similar to Zombie Infection, other games just do these things a lot better. Because they were made with that game in mind and were not shoehorned into it, unlike what they're trying to do here. You're allowed to stop playing this game and pick another game up to enjoy a completely different experience. That's what games are for. So stop this fucking trend of injecting these half-baked arcade minigames into an already established title that they have no business being in. It always just ends up with them rotting away in the massive pile of shit that we already have here, like Pastime or Manpower. Game modes that were made earlier in TF2's life cycle, and still, nobody fucking plays them. And Versus Axton Hale is no different. I could say that workshoppers could release these game modes on Game Banana for people to download and play on community servers if they so pleased. But they never do that and only release it on the workshop, which just tells me that money is the driving factor here. Why else would they try to shoehorn already existing plugins and mods into the core game itself, even though they're objectively worse than the predecessors? Obviously, people should get paid for their work, but don't fucking expect people to praise the shit you make. And this shit is just a diet version of what Open Fortress already is, which is free, by the way. Here, I'll leave the link in the description just to make it easier for you. So I will say this: use VScript to make maps more unique, instead of a damn modding tool. Make maps and tailor them for the game in mind, instead of trying to make another game entirely. I appreciate the effort, but we already have these. So no thanks, not interested.